Before we start the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. And now, let's go. Story 1. We stepped ashore on the southern port of the island. There was an old sign nailed to a wooden beam. "Welcome to Fair Oak Island," it said. Our original plan had been to take a few days off at a writer's retreat on our Holma Island in the northern parts of the Stockholm archipelago. But our taxi boat, the only one willing to defy the ice floes still resting on the dark water, had gotten lost in an unexpected fog and instead delivered us to this island. Not even our captain, who claimed to know every little islet on the chart, seemed to know where we had ended up. He did reek of alcohol, though, so at this point I just assumed he didn't know what he was talking about. Tom began walking through the snow with resolute steps. "Let's look around," he said. "It might take hours until the fog dissipates. We should try and get the most out of this little mishap. It might serve as inspiration for our next stories." Felix, who didn't seem as happy about the situation, tried to get a signal by holding his phone up to the sky. "I'm not sure it works that way," I said, and checked my own phone. "I don't have any signal either. Are we really that far away from the nearest cell phone tower?" "I've never seen so much snow in my entire life," Mindy said as she held on to Felix's arm. "It's even more beautiful than I imagined." In an instant, hundreds of crows escaped the trees in front of us. They cawed as they flew over our heads. Jorgen, still standing next to his boat, looked at them with concern in his eyes. Next, a loud sound coming from deep inside the island reached us. It sounded like someone was banging huge sheets of metal against each other. It was repeated a few times with regular intervals until it quieted down again. "What was that?" Felix asked. I repeated the question to Jorgen, but in Swedish. "No idea," he said, itching his beard. "I don't like this place. This island shouldn't be here. Surely, I would have heard about it. You know what I think?" "What?" I asked. "It's owned by the Navy and consciously kept to the charts. This must be where they have their secret base. I've heard about it. They're trying out secret weapons. Maybe something biological. Anything to keep the Russians away. We should probably get out of here as soon as possible. They might not let us leave if they catch us." Jorgen was clearly a man of tall tales, but the way he spoke, the genuine fear in his voice, still made the hair stand up in my neck. "The mystery thickens," Tom said after I translated the story. "And we just stepped ashore? I can't wait to see what more this island has in store for us." "Sounds like a cock and bull story to me," Felix said and smiled confidently. "You guys have spent too much time on Nosleep. It's starting to get to you." "Ah," Tom said. "Where's your spirit of adventure?" "Yeah," Mindy said with a grin on her face. "You need to keep an open mind." "I'll tell you this," Felix said. "Right about now, I'm incredibly open to finding somewhere to get warm. I might never have seen this much snow before, seeing that I'm from Australia and all, but I have never felt this cold either." "I'm staying at the boat," Jorgen said. "If you aren't back before sunset, I'm leaving." All of us felt confident we wouldn't be gone that long and walked up what looked to have been a road before it was covered in a thick layer of snow. After walking for about 10 minutes, we were greeted by yet another sign. This one said, "Clara's Garden." A few meters further ahead, a couple of typical Swedish cottages appeared. They were painted in a bright crimson red with white trimmings on the windows. As expected, there was a garden at the center of the cottages. It was frozen in place, just as if it was made purely out of ice crystals. The lights were on inside the main building, and there were fresh footprints all over the place. The unease I had felt after listening to Jorgen vanished as soon as I learned that there were people living here. It comforted me that we weren't all alone here, and that there was somewhere we could warm ourselves while we waited. "What are those?" Felix asked and pointed to a couple of vehicles parked outside. "Snowmobiles," I said. "They're common in Sweden during winter. I would be surprised if the island is big enough for cars, so this might be their only mode of transportation if they want to get somewhere fast." Tom stepped forward. "Let's get inside and say hello," he said. "I'm eager to hear what they have to say about this place." Inside, the walls were painted white, but over time they had turned a bit gray, and there was a couple of bells on a red string that rang as we opened the doors. A few tables were placed haphazardly in front of a reception, not unlike a cafe, and the dry air smelled of a mixture of tar and wood. There was a couple of teenagers sitting at one of the tables. They looked at us like they hadn't seen an outsider in years. They were all dressed in what looked like vintage clothes from the 80s. I didn't pay much attention to it. It wasn't unusual for islanders this far out in the archipelago to be a bit behind on things. We heard steps coming down a stairwell behind the reception. A middle-aged woman soon appeared. She smiled at us as she positioned herself behind the desk. I told her how we ended up on the island and asked her if it was okay for us to wait here until the fog dissipated. That fog won't go away until at least tomorrow, the woman said. You're welcome to use our cottages for free if it's just for the night. We only rent them out during summer, so it shouldn't be a problem. She smiled, but there won't be any room service. I turned to my friends and told them what was up. They were surprisingly happy to hear it. Even Felix brightened up a little bit, and we agreed to the woman's offer. She gave us 2 keys, one for me and Tom, and one for Felix and his girlfriend. Can you tell me something about this island? I asked the woman. What does Fair Oak mean, for example? I haven't heard that word before. No one knows, she said. It's simply what it says on a runestone on Little Island. That's what we call the smaller island in the lake further up. Clara was my great-grandmother. Back when she was still alive, she used to tell me so many stories about her childhood on this island. Not all of them were meant for little kids. Of course, she said with a quirky smile. Those are the ones I love the most. What's your name? I asked. Clara. Just not that Clara. I would love to hear some of those stories, Clara, I said and added. Someone should tell the guy with the boat, Jorgen, that we'll spend the night here. He's waiting for us at the port. He didn't want to come with us. No worries, Clara said. Ik will go down there and tell him. The bells rang. A tall man with a gray complexion and a rather dull countenance stepped inside together with a little girl. Contrary to the man, the girl was full of life. She ran inside, jumping up and down, just as if her heavy winter clothes didn't weight her down the slightest. Maria, Clara said, have you been throwing snowballs at Ake again? The tall man, seemingly absent-minded, turned toward the woman. I need to go back out there, he said. There's something. I saw something. Tom introduced himself to the man, startled him, and while they spoke, seemingly without issues, I turned to the woman and took the keys from the desk. I noticed a newspaper behind Clara. Olof Palme was on the cover, Prime Minister of Sweden from 1969 to 1976 and 1982 to 1986. I pointed at it and said, that must be really old, I said. I was just 1 year old the day he was murdered. Clara looked surprised, almost shocked. What a strange thing to say, she said. That's no joking matter. I told her I was sorry. Some people loved Palme, some hated him. I should have known better than to comment on it, I thought, even this long after his assassination. I gave Felix his key, and he left for the cottage with his girlfriend. What did that man say? I asked after Tom had finished talking to him. Dude, Tom said he was super weird. He insisted that he had met me earlier. I have no idea what he was talking about. He's apparently been trying to find what's making that sound we heard. And he said he saw me coming out of the woods. That's crazy, I said. Maybe his English wasn't that good? Perhaps he... Nah, I think that's exactly what he meant, Tom said. Creeped me out. The inside of the cottage seemed to have been newly renovated, but it still looked like it belonged in the past. The IKEA furniture had a pristine quality, but it was all older models. After picking our beds and putting our bags next to them, I tried to text Felix to see how he was doing and if he and his girlfriend would like to watch a movie with us later. But there was still no reception. I turned on the TV, half expecting it not to work since it looked so old. And at the same time, Tom came out of the bathroom, seemingly upset. There's black mold in there, he said. It's coming out of the tap, like it's growing inside the pipes. I don't think we should drink any of the water. It's disgusting. Have you been able to get a signal? I asked. It's strange that there's no coverage here. I've been pretty far out in the archipelago before, and I've never had any issues with getting a signal. I haven't checked, he said. But seriously, that mold though, he put on his jacket again. I'm going to ask someone to come take a look. Okay, I said. You sure it can't wait until tomorrow? I mean, it's just no way, man. How are we supposed to brush our teeth? I nodded and directed my eyes to the TV. It only showed stuff from the 80s. At this point, a feeling of unease came over me. It started to dawn on me that something was off about this place, but I didn't dare to guess what exactly that something might be. After the sun had set, I got up from the sofa and looked out the front door to try and get a hold of Tom. I had assumed he had stayed at the main building to talk to Clara. It was typical of him to be overly social with strangers, but when I looked outside, I saw that all the lights were off inside the main building. "Tom!" I yelled. "You there?" No response. He was nowhere to be seen. I put on my shoes, ready to go looking for him, when Felix came out of the forest behind his cottage in what looked like a state of panic. "Hey," he said. "Have you seen me?" "No," I said. "Where have you been?" No time to explain. He was tearing up. "I have to find her." He ran toward the snowmobiles. "Hey," I said. "What's going on? Have you seen Tom?" It was all so confusing. Felix started the engine and zigzagged his way into the forest with the headlights blaring in front of him. Clara came outside the main building, wondering what was going on. I ran up to her. She demanded to know who took the snowmobile. I told her something had happened to Felix's girlfriend and that he had gone looking for her. I then proceeded to ask her if she had seen Tom, but she didn't seem to remember him. "It's too cold to go into the forest alone at this hour. Don't you know anything?" she said. "I'll call Ulf. Just wait here. He and the twins know their way around the island." Ulf arrived on his own snowmobile together with his two friends. One girl that sat behind him and another girl on her own vehicle. It was the teenagers we had seen inside. I told them what had happened and that all my friends had suddenly gone missing. "It's not like them to act like this," I said. "I have no idea what's going on, and I got no signal on my phone. Do you have a phone that works?" I asked. "My phone works fine," Ulf said. "But my house is on the other side of the—" "I mean your cell phone," I interrupted. "Do you have a working cell phone?" They all looked at me as if I were insane. "My God," I exclaimed. "What year is this? You don't have cell phones." I showed them my phone. "Look, no signal." They looked at the display as if they were witnessing a miracle. "Wow," the girl behind Ulf said. "That's amazing. What kind of device is that?" I put it back into my pocket. "You got to be joking with me," I said. "Are you all role-playing the 80s here?" "Look," Ulf said, "I don't know what you're talking about, but we should probably try and find your friends instead of arguing. The island isn't that big, so we should be able to find them pretty quickly. You can sit behind Emma." I sat down behind her. "Felix went that way," I said and pointed at his tracks. "I still don't know where Tom went." We drove up the hill, following Felix's tracks. I held on to the sides of my seat, avoiding grabbing Emma, and almost fell off in the process. A bit further into the forest, we saw a figure to the right and stopped. As it came closer, I saw that it was Tom. "Where the fuck have you been?" I yelled. He looked at me with tired eyes. "I tried to find you," he said. "I've been looking for so long. It must have been more than a month. Where did you all go? What the hell are you talking about?" I asked. "A month? We're looking for Felix. He went searching for his girlfriend. No idea what that was all about, but we're following his tracks now. These kids are helping. You go back to the cottage and get warm, okay? You'll catch pneumonia if you stay outside any longer. You must be freezing." "Okay," he said, too tired to talk. "Just don't go inside the old lodge, and whatever you do, stay away from the abandoned port west of the island." "You went all the way to the other side of the island?" I asked. "Man, you have a lot of explaining to do when I come back. Just follow our tracks back to the cottages, okay?" He nodded and slowly walked away from us. "He'll be all right," I said. "Now, let's go find Felix." They started up the snowmobiles again and drove up the hill. Felix's tracks continued up a hillside, and at the top, they took a sharp left. A few meters ahead, the tracks were cut off. We stopped. I looked at the edge of the tracks, dumbfounded. It was just as if he, together with the entire vehicle, had vanished in a thin air. "Felix!" I yelled. "Felix!" "Linnea," Ulf said to the girl who had sat behind him. "I think you and your sister should go back home and—" "Hell no," she said. "Don't try and send us home like we're some kids. We're going to help. This must have something to do with the deer we found last week. I'm convinced it's all connected somehow. The deer, those sounds. What deer?" I asked. "Someone better start telling me what's going on here." "We found a deer," Ulf said. "It was cut in half, chopped up like a dog's dinner." "Chopped up?" I said. "You mean like it was cut like a loaf of bread?" Emma said, and the front of it was missing. The snow around it was covered in blood, but just like these tracks, it was cut off, for crying out loud. I said, "Are you suggesting my friend has been turned into freaking salami and kidnapped by aliens? Stop making up stories. Animals get eaten in the wild all the time." Then how do you explain this? Linnea said, "Where's the scooter? Did he fly away with it? This isn't natural. And you don't know about all the weird shit that's been going on here lately. It's not just that deer. It's that sound as well. The snow must have fallen off the trees," I speculated, covering up the tracks. "Let's drive a bit further up. I'm sure we'll find him there." We blindly continued forward for maybe 15 minutes, after which the snowmobiles got stuck. The snow beneath us was gone, revealing the wet moss and bedrock underneath. It was as if the entire area in front of us had been warmed up from the underneath. "This can't be," I said. "What can have done this?" "We told you," Ulf said. "Something strange is happening on this island." I didn't want to admit it, didn't dare to think about what all of this meant, but there was no denying it anymore. Something unearthly was truly going on here. The moon shone down on us from behind the trees, just as if it had sneaked up on us and exposed our frightened faces. After some hesitation, we continued forward on foot. It was noticeably warmer within the snowless zone, and the air was a bit more humid. "What's this?" Linnea said, and pointed at a substance climbing up the bark of one of the trees. "It looks like some kind of slime." "Black mold," I said. Tom complained about something similar back at the cabin. Emma removed some of the moss on the ground with her feet. The mold spread out beneath it like a slimy web. "Let's follow it," Ulf said. "Maybe it will lead us to its source." Once we began looking for it, we saw the mold everywhere. It had infested the entire forest. Here and there, we spotted animals that had gotten trapped by it. Most of them were dead, slowly being consumed by the black slime, but a rabbit was still kicking its hind legs in a futile attempt to escape. We inspected it, unsuccessfully trying to figure out what the mold was doing to it, and then Ulf stomped it to death out of mercy. At the same moment, his boot crushed the skull of the small animal. A multitude of screams erupted and echoed through the dark forest. It was almost as if the forest itself screamed in agony through thousands of mouths. We froze in our places until the forest quieted down again. Then we heard something behind us. I slowly turned around. It was a deer running toward us in a rabid fury. Its bones were visible beneath its skin, and instead of eyes, there was only black mold. "What is that?" Emma yelled. "Run," Ulf said. "Fucking run." We ran blindly further into the forest, hearing the hooves of the infested deer and its strange, heavy breath behind us coming closer for every second. Emma slipped on some roots and fell to the ground. There was more than one deer now. All their eyes had been eaten by the mold. I had no idea how they could still see us. I stopped and dragged Emma up on her feet again. She was crying for her sister to wait. "She's right in front of us," I said. "Just keep running." She had hurt her knee, but she kept going. There was a splash further ahead, then another one, and only seconds later, I fell into a small body of freezing water. Linnea and Ulf had already fallen into it and begun wading through it. Emma stopped at the edge, right before falling in herself. "Jump," I said. "It's not that deep, and there wasn't enough time." One of the deer reached her, ramming her from behind with its sharp antlers. She was thrown into the water head first. I felt the warmth of some of her blood landing on my face. I waded out to her and turned her around so that her face wouldn't be under the water. The deer walked right and left at the edge, unwilling to jump into the water to continue their pursuit. I dragged Emma with me to the other side, not knowing what condition she was in. Ulf helped me pull her out of the water while Linnea cried into her hands, too afraid to look at what had happened to her sister. Emma was still alive, but she was losing blood from the deep cuts left in her back from the antlers. "She's alive," I yelled toward Linnea to give her some comfort. "We need to get her to a hospital as soon as possible." Ulf and I helped Emma up on her legs and put her arms over her shoulders. We struggled forward into the darkness. There was a silhouette of a rectangular structure in the distance, lit up from behind by the setting moon. "What is that?" I asked the others. "It looks huge." "And no idea," Ulf replied as we struggled through the dead, frozen ferns with Emma between us. "It's too large," he continued. "It shouldn't be here." "Let's go there," Linnea said, pushing ahead of us. "We can't turn back. Perhaps there's someone there who can help us. Come on, hurry up. She's still bleeding, goddammit." After everything we had seen, I didn't think there would be any help for us over there, but I kept my mouth shut since we didn't have anywhere else to go anyway. There was a large, muddy crater surrounding the structure. The temperature kept raising for every step we took, making us sweat beneath our winter clothes. We didn't stop until we reached the bottom of the crater. From there, we all stared up at the structure in silent astonishment. "My God," I said. "What in the name of all that is holy is that thing?" Linnea fell on her knees, crying. I hoped there would be someone here. The structure's seemingly fossilized, ashy facade looked indistinguishable from the bedrock and shade, but like a work of complex engineering in form. Watching it tower above us aroused a strange sense of doom inside me. It was clear to me that this enormous construction wasn't some secret, modern military project. It was ancient and alien. A craft, maybe millions of years old, engulfed by the bedrock. "This isn't human," Ulf said. "It must have been here since forever," I said. "Look at," I interrupted myself. "Well, except the black goo. You see it? It's climbing up against the hull." "I'll listen," Emma said, only barely conscious. "There's something what?" Linnea said and turned to me and Ulf. "Shut up, you two. She's trying to say something." She returned to Emma. "What did you show?" Emma said. "Listen, something is coming." We fell silent. There was a faint sound coming from the forest, almost like a whisper. "Hvizdichka, kolom, 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 hvizdichka." It became louder and louder until it turned into a monotone voice. And then a figure appeared among the dark trees, running toward us. Kealoim, 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 Kealoim. It was a naked woman, pale as a corpse. Her arms hung limply at her sides, swaying back and forth as she ran, and her dull eyes showed no expression. From her sagging mouth, the same sounds came out over and over and over again. Kealoim, 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 Kealoim. She tripped on something and violently fell to the ground, but it didn't shut her up even for a second, and she immediately got back up on her feet without using her arms and continued to dart toward us with what must have been superhuman speed. "Emma," Linnea exclaimed. "It's Emma. What are you talking about?" Ulf said. "Emma is right here." But as the woman got closer, we both noticed that Linnea was right. It was Emma, or at least someone who looked exactly like her. Frozen by both fear and confusion, we weren't able to run until Emma, the original one, so to speak, opened her mouth. "It's not me. We need to get away from here. We need to get away from her now." We snapped out of our paralysis and tried to escape the rabid version of Emma running toward us. But carrying our Emma made us slow. We didn't get far until Ulf was rammed and tackled to the ground. They both fell. I used the distraction to quickly grab Emma and drag her behind a thick oak. Linnea panicked and ran toward the structure, the only reasonable hiding place. From behind a tree trunk, I still heard the other Emma repeat her haunting sounds. Kealon, 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 Kealon. She got up just as quick as before and continued in pursuit of Linnea. Relieved, I returned to Ulf. He slowly got up from the ground, moaning out of pain. "How are you, man?" I asked. "Are you hurt?" "And no," he said. "I'm fine." "What was that?" Emma, who was regaining some strength, spoke. "It was a monster, looking exactly like me, and now it's chasing my sister." When we reached the structure, we saw that there was a hole in a section of the wall. It looked like it had been teared open from the inside. As we approached this entrance, we heard Linnea crying inside. Ulf yelled her name, which echoed all the way up to the top through the darkness. A minute later, Linnea yelled back from somewhere deep inside. "I'm in here. Please help me." I yelled for Felix, hoping he was hiding here as well, but there was no response. "Go inside and help her," Emma said. "But leave me here. Just let me rest against the wall until you come back." "Okay, just don't be gone for too long." There was a strange buzzing sound inside, coming from all directions, only accompanied by the sound of dripping water. Everything was pitch black. We waded through waist-deep water, yelling for Linnea. But she wasn't answering anymore. We didn't give up, though, and kept going forward. We couldn't see further than a few meters ahead of us, but what we saw still filled us with both wonder and terror. The walls, covered by the black mold, Looked like circuit boards made from stone and their whole carcasses have been stuck to the wall by the slime. Some belonged to ordinary animals, such as a half-rotten elk, and some ancient beasts such as a fossilized mammoth and others. Even older, belonged to completely alien creatures that was hard to even describe. "This is a graveyard," I said. "A place of death. I can't move my left arm," Ulf replied, in tears by the sound of his voice. "What do you mean you can't move your—" "Oh no," he said. "I'm feeling it in my right arm as well now." A sudden cough interrupted him. "I don't feel too well." He coughed again. I don't know, WHKLOM. I immediately stepped back. "Whoa," I said. "What's going on with you, man?" "I'm feeling dizzy. Tired. I can't see." He fell silent. "Ulf," I said, slowly stepping even further back. "Hello," he moaned, almost as if he were speaking in his sleep. And then he slowly began to mumble those terrifying sounds. Asterisk K clom. 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 Asterisk no way, man. I said, "Ulf." His torso twitched and swayed back and forth, and then he came to a sudden stop. "You Ulf." I tried again. Asterisk KLOM. 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 Asterisk he took a step toward me. I turned around and began to run as fast as I could through the murky water. Ulf had become just like the sick version of Emma, and now he was chasing me, repeating the same sounds. KLOM, 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 KLOM. I heard him right behind me. If I kept running, I wouldn't stand a chance. Instead, I took a deep breath and went beneath the surface and swam to the left under the water. Thankfully, Ulf lost sight of me and continued forward. When I resurfaced, I found myself inside a narrow hallway. I didn't dare make a sound, for example by yelling for Linnea. I realized that Ulf must have been infected by the version of Emma that attacked us, that she had turned him into the same mindless shell of a person. It was a fate worse than death. I reached a larger chamber at the end of the hallway. A skeleton, belonging to what must have been an enormous horse, filled the room. There were nowhere to go from here. That's when I heard it, coming from the hallway behind me. KLOM, 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 KLOM. It wasn't just Ulf, but Emma too. I ripped one of the bones out of the skeleton and held it up in front of me as a weapon, but I knew it wouldn't make a difference. Something fell into the water from the ceiling, revealing a beam of light. A hatchet opened up. Just before Ulf and Emma entered the chamber, a rope fell from the opening in the ceiling. A voice told me to grab it. It was Linnea. KLOM, 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 KLOM. They were just about to enter the chamber. I grabbed the rope as hard as I could, and just as they were about to knock me down, turning me into one of them, Linnea pulled me up. Thanks, I said. That was a close call. Linnea held a metal pipe of some kind in her hand, ready to strike me. Did they touch you? She asked. No, I said. Relax, it didn't get to me. Where have you been? How long have you been here? She asked, ignoring my question. Are you from before, or now, or the future? Tell me how long you've been here. What are you talking about? We just came here. Linnea lowered her weapon, and then her gaze. A tear came down her cheek that fell down the hole and into the water below. She didn't look like before, but it wasn't clear in what way she was different now. One of her front teeth were missing, but that wasn't it. It was something more subtle. I reached out and touched her shoulder. First, she pulled back, but then she relaxed and stepped closer. We need to find a way out of here, I said. Emma demanded to be left outside while we looked for you. I'm sure she's fine. She isn't, Linnea said. Come on, you don't know that. I do, she said. The last time I saw you were 2 years ago, and I've learned a lot during all that time. How is that possible? I asked. What is this place? How? I don't know, but this place isn't a spaceship. From what I've gathered, it's something else entirely. It never traveled through space, rather through different worlds. At some point it crashed here and merged with this island, creating shockwaves throughout reality itself. I know it doesn't make sense, I know that, but I can't deny what I've seen. Interdimensional shockwaves? I asked, flabbergasted by the suggestion. Still, if we find a way back, we can save your sister. Don't you get it? Linnea said. This vessel, it messes with the laws of physics. We saw what would happen to Emma before it happened. By now, she's probably already infected. Her fate was already sealed. There would have been nothing we could have done. My head was spinning, try to understand how it all fit together. What have you been doing for 2 years? I asked. Have you been here all this time? No, she said. I found different openings. The first one led to a desert. Everything was dead there. I don't think life ever evolved there. The second one was the same, but cold instead of hot. Most of the exits led to dead worlds such as those, but eventually I found life, but not of the kind we're used to, and I had to hunt for food there to survive. I always came back to this vessel, trying to find my way back home. You still haven't. A few months back, I finally found my way back to the opening we came here through, and while it didn't lead to the same time we arrived, it at least led to the right world, or at least to a world just like the one we came from. But I kept coming back, hoping to find Ulf. He's gone, I said. I'm sorry. I know, Linnea whispered. I know. Let's get the fuck out of here, I said. It's not too late for us yet. Linnea led the way. It didn't take long until we heard it. KLOM, 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 KLOM. It was Mindy this time. She was quick and surprisingly agile, even though she too had lost the use of her arms. We ran, jumped over chasms, crawled through tight spaces, and climbed over rotting carcasses, and Mindy still managed to come after us. A bit further ahead, she was joined by Emma and Ulf. They were getting closer, and we were getting more and more exhausted. We ran past an opening in the hull, leading to what looked like a jungle. A monstrosity of some kind, a pale giant with long black hair where its lower body should have been, crawled through the opening just when Mindy was about to reach me. It grabbed her and bit her in half. This place is leaking in monsters. I yelled, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. The giant stopped the others too, but it didn't take long for it to turn. With a much deeper voice, it began chanting, KLOM, 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 KLOM. It crawled toward us, much faster than it seemed to have been able to at first. It was just about to grab me with its large hand when we jumped down one level, landing in the dark water. From there, I could see the opening. The giant threw itself over the ledge in pursuit, casting waves that made us fall over. It was just a matter of seconds before it would get to us, but luckily it was long enough for us to reach the opening. It was summer outside. The giant couldn't get through the tight opening. It banged on the hull from the inside, creating a loud sound that echoed through the island. I realized it was the sound we had heard before, just when we had arrived. This turned out to be much later, though. Clara's garden was abandoned and overgrown. We saw evidence of military activity. It was just as if there had been a battle here a few decades earlier. We walked past a burnout tank and a crash fighter jet. Inside one of the cabins, while looking for my friends, there was another newspaper on the desk. The clom fungus has reached America, said the headline. I looked at the year, 2032. I never found Tom or Felix. Most likely, they had fallen victim to the fungus or some of the beasts escaping into our world through the vessel. But I haven't given up hope. Perhaps they found their way into another time or world where they could not just survive, but thrive as well. Linnea found an old sailboat. As soon as we left the island, we got lost in another thick fog. We sailed through it for hours, and when we finally came out of it, the ice floes were back. My phone received a bunch of messages, most of them from my worrying mom. I smiled as I read them, knowing I was Finn. Story 2. My name is Michael, and I can't really tell you my story without freaking the fuck out and lose it. See, I'm not a pussy, I'm a grown man. But this made me feel like a little girl, and it goes like this. In my childhood, I wasn't a very popular boy. In fact, I was the loneliest kid in school. I had only one friend, James. James was the only one that understood me. See, I lost my father when I was 4 years old. I didn't really knew him, but growing up without a father always killed me inside, so I wasn't a very friendly kid at all. The only one that I've ever talked to was James. I don't know if he just felt bad for me, but honestly, I didn't care. I was just happy to have a friend. Every Monday after school, we would go to the tree house that we once found in the forest. That was so fun. It was just so quiet and lonely. Just like me. At the beginning of 9th grade, everything went great. I kept talking with James and got a 100 in math. Everything went smooth until the 12th of September. OH this fucking day, the day I'll never forget. I woke up with a great mood, brushed my teeth, and went downstairs to greet my mom with a good morning. But when I saw her face, I knew something was wrong. "Sweetheart," she said, "what's wrong?" "Look, I'm sorry, but James is missing. I'm sorry." She huged me, and I felt like the world has crushed, and another close one to me is gone. I didn't went to school for a week. All I thought about is James. But I still had a little faith in me that said that he is still alive, but where can he be? We live in a small town, so he can't be far. I had so many questions, and my mind was full with thoughts. So I thought that I had to calm down, so I went to sleep, and all of a sudden I woke up and heard the most beautiful noise ever. It was a song, and the singer was so good that it was too good to be true. And the song? The song was the most creepy song ever, and it was something like this. 1, 2, 3, just dance with me. 1, 2, 3, stop hanging on the tree. 1, 2, 3, just dance with me. 1, 2, 3, don't be afraid. I'll come to you like I came to your friend. Then I fell back asleep. In my dream, I remember I saw a beautiful little girl singing and staring at me. IT. It was scary. In the morning, I was terrified. WTF was that? Was it all in me head? I'm going insane. I have to find him. I know he is alive. I don't know why I felt that. Maybe because I missed him. So when my mom went to work, I knew exactly what I will do. I took a bottle of water, a hat, my running shoes, and a knife. Just for safety, I said to myself. And there was only one place I thought about going to, the tree house. So I went to my way. As I walked, I couldn't get the damn song out of my head. What does that mean? Hanging on tree? Those words creeped me out, but I kept walking. For James. Well, there it is, I said to the air. The forest. As I started walking through the trees, the song in my head was getting louder and louder. And after about 15 minutes of walking, the song was getting so loud, I couldn't fucking stand it. I started hitting the tree that was close to me. I hit it so hard blood came out. I started screaming out loud, "Stop it. Please stop the fucking song. Please." And then all I could hear was nothing. Am I losing it? I kept going and finally made it to the tree house. He has to be there, right? I kept talking to myself. I started climbing on the ladder, and when I finally made it to the door, I took a deep breath and opened. And what I saw, OHHH that will be with me for my whole life. I saw the name James written in blood at the wall, and a line right on it. But the worst yet to come. Right near it the name Michael, I was in shock, but then 1, 2, 3 want to die with me? 1, 2, 3 want to kill with me? 1, 2, 3, don't be afraid, Daddy's here with you again. I started crying. How? How can that stupid fucking thing could know? After around 20 minutes of me trying to relax, I'm starting to search for James. I was searching everywhere, every drawer, every locker, but he wasn't there. I lost hope. I looked at the stupid wall. SHIT. It's gone. The wall was clean. It can't be. I'm losing it. I'm fucking insane. Then the song started playing in my head, but this time I was laughing. I left the treehouse, but then I saw her staring at me. She was so beautiful, almost unreal. She started to sing, of course, and I started running. I ran so fast, but when I looked behind, I saw her, not moving, just staring at me, singing. Fuck it. He is fucking dead. And I don't want to be the next. I'm sorry, James. I kept running with tears in my eyes and didn't stop. I just wanted to not see this thing again, ever. I made it home and called the cops, but of course they couldn't find anything, but I didn't care. I was just glad I was alive. This happened 12 years ago, and I could lie and say that I still hear the damn song or weird feelings, but no, it's like nothing has happened. I moved a city and am still trying to leave it behind. Story 3. I've never liked spiders. It's not their fault, objectively I know that. But when I see them, the 8 shiny legs darting perfectly along a nearly invisible thread, grabbing and wrapping their prey, it frightens me. I can only imagine myself as that prey, watching helplessly as a black silhouette emerges from the darkness to grab me, wrap me up, and slowly consume me. Other invertebrates never evoked the same reaction. I don't like getting stung by bees, but overall I enjoy watching them hover from flower to flower with their cheery colors. Flies are an annoyance. Crickets a welcome song in the night. When I noticed the chaotic, strong web on my front porch, I wasn't thrilled. I cleared it with a broom, the whole time checking little cracks in the siding or behind our wooden bench for a creeping culprit. I couldn't find it. As little as I liked that fact, it was outside, and there would always be spiders outside, so I went about my business. The next morning, I was locking the door on my way to work, juggling my lunch and my coffee and my coat. Under the bench, the web was back. In a hurry to get to my car, I likely wouldn't have noticed the translucent threads spanning from the seat of the bench down to the floorboards, except for one thing. There was a mouse caught there. It was dead, upside down, and mostly wrapped in a white silk. The limbs were pinned to its sides, almost like a straitjacket. The eyes were wide with terror and glazed over, staring blankly at the wooden planks beneath it. To kill a mouse, it must have been a sizable spider. My nose wrinkled in disgust at the thought of it, but I had to go to work. The spider would have to wait. The sun was setting as I returned, and the poor little mouse's corpse was in the same place. I swept it into a waste bin with a broom and cleared the rest of the web. Still, I couldn't find the spider. I tentatively flipped the cushion on the bench, expecting to see it staring back at me. There was nothing. The other nooks and crannies were all empty too. Even the eaves of the porch were unoccupied. Along two of the upright beams holding the roof, I found another spider's web, with just a few midges adorning the concentric circles of silk. An orange orb weaver sat right in the middle, with little hairs sticking out her legs. I knocked the spider and web onto the ground with my broom, and smacked the spider hard with it. She didn't die, but was dragging herself, with some of her legs sticking at odd angles. They could still get around pretty well with 3 or more legs, I noticed. I hit her again, which did the job, and swept her into the bin. I didn't want to just leave it there, since some spiders can be dangerous, and I didn't know them well. Moving on to my other tasks, I made dinner, did the laundry, and watched a show before bed. My life is far from exciting, I'll admit. I'd finally gotten a promotion at work, and was putting pretty much all of my effort into the marketing company. All of my peers did the same. The spider evaded my attention for several days. I thought about other things like a normal, healthy person might. It was only that weekend, when I went to rake leaves in the yard, that it crawled up to the front of my mind. There was something stuck on the outside of my chimney. I thought it was a black trash bag. The clouds backlit the shape, making it hard to see any details. Only after taking a few steps did I recognize it as a crow. A wing stuck out at an odd angle, while the rest of the body was cross-crossed with dull white lines, which suspended it in the air. I gasped, realizing this bird had been caught by my spider. I'd heard of small birds getting eaten, as well as mice. Was it possible for one to catch crow? As soon as my shock wore off, I began looking for it. The idea that a huge spider could be above me was unsettling, to say the least. Eventually, I gathered the courage to poke at the corpse of the bird. I half expected the spider to emerge from behind, to jump down on me. It looked like there was nothing there. This was beyond the pale for me, and I went inside to call an exterminator. I left the bird up, figuring no one would believe me without evidence. I called around and found someone who could be there in the afternoon. What I had hoped to be a relaxing Saturday was anything but, as I wondered where the spider was hiding. If it could kill a crow, I imagined the thing must have been the size of a tarantula. Didn't they normally stay near their webs? It would need to be a large crevice or nook of some sort. The chimney. As soon as I thought it, I couldn't think of anything else. I ran to my living room. There was supposed to be some kind of mesh to exclude birds and bats, wasn't there? I hadn't checked it since I moved in. Also, I thought that I had the flue closed, but there was no way to know if that would stop a spider. From a cabinet, I grabbed a long lighter, lighter fluid, and an empty cardboard box from a delivery the day before. I threw the box in, drenched it in lighter fluid, and opened the flue. When I put the lighter into the fireplace, here was a fireball which singed the hair from my hand. It poured out of the glass doors as I desperately tried to close them. Within a moment, the fire calmed down to a conventional blaze, and I ran outside. I couldn't see anything crawling out of the metal pipe atop the bricks. There was a significant amount of smoke, and I was sure that no spider could have survived inside the chimney. Confident that the spider wasn't in there, or wasn't alive if it was, I returned inside to wait for the exterminator. He arrived with a smile, but his jaw dropped when I showed him the crow. Soon his shock was replaced with a sort of excitement, and he asked to take pictures. I agreed, and he began to snap away gleefully from his ladder. He hypothesized it might be a Joro spider, a large invasive species known for living in treetops. He'd never seen one himself, but that was his best guess. Since the spider was nowhere to be found, he offered to do what was called a barrier spray. I accepted, hoping it would be effective. With a backpack sprayer, he pretty much coated the outside of my house with pesticide and a few feet of ground around it. Over the next few days, I noticed dead moths under the lamps, dead bees on the sidewalk, but no dead spider. By the following week, there were no more webs, and my mind was on work rather than the spider. I was asleep in bed when a screaming woke me. In a stupor for a few seconds, I thought it might be a person, but that didn't match the sound. It was a desperate screeching noise, and I wondered if it could be a pig or an owl. Looking into the yard, I saw some sort of commotion in a bush and grabbed a proper flashlight before going to investigate. The leaves of the bush rustled, but the screaming had stopped. Approaching cautiously, I shone the light into the branches, unsure of what I would find. It was a rabbit. I'd forgotten that they could be very loud if they were being hurt. There was no fox, no coyote in the bush. The rabbit was kicking weakly, and I saw the silver shine of the threads. At the same time, I saw a black, shiny form scurry away into the dark foliage. With the shadows of leaves and branches from my flashlight, it was impossible to make out how big it was exactly, but the bulky, jet black abdomen had been at least the size of my fist. I ran back into my house. I locked the door, as silly as that might sound. My heart was racing. I tried to look up every spider I could, but found nothing even remotely similar. There was the Goliath bird eater in South America, but it still wasn't big enough. Besides that, it was covered in thick brown hair, not the shining black carapace I saw with my flashlight. The spider I had seen reminded me of nothing more than an enormous black widow. Afraid that I was going insane, I went back to the bush in the morning. The rabbit was gone, as was the web. With my broom handle, I poked at the bushes tentatively, afraid that at any point it could jump out at me, or that it would grab and pull the broom. At this point, I needed evidence of it. I wanted to send the webbing to a university or something to see if they could figure out what it was. As much as I looked, I couldn't find any, nor could I find the rabbit. Looking closely, I could see where the rabbit had kicked at the leaves on the soft ground under the bush before it had been subdued. I took a picture of that, at least. Anything was better than nothing, I figured. I also reached out to the pest control company to try and get the pictures the man had taken of the crow. They said he was servicing several other houses, but got my email so that he could send them to me at the end of the day. I posted them on a forum, which got some attention. Most people said that it must have been fishing line rather than spider web, or something of that nature. The mystery spider was quickly becoming an obsession of mine. Why would I be the person to see the largest spider ever recorded? What cruel twist of fate would give that unwanted honor to me? Before going to bed, I had several drinks. I normally don't drink much, especially if I have work. However, one side effect of drinking is that I usually don't have dreams. I was afraid of what my dreams would be, and figured that even poor sleep was better than nightmares. I was annoyed awaking that night, having to pee. It was windy, with branches rustling against the house. Pulling the blankets back, I paused in confusion. All at once, the wind had stopped. I looked out the window and screamed. It had not been branches tapping at my window, but the long, black legs of the spider. Each one was the length of my forearm and hand, about as big around as a finger. It was upside down, facing my windowsill. Hanging motionless since I had awoken, I couldn't fight the feeling that the tapping I'd heard for several minutes was the spider's long legs scratching at my window, trying to open it. Unsure what to do, I stood, and the monstrosity scurried away out of sight, with a sound like pebbles being thrown at the glass. I kept a baseball bat near my front door and ran down the stairs to get it. Flipping on the lights, I contemplated calling 911, but what would I say? Would they send someone for what sounded like a bad dream? Holding the bat firmly in my hand, I went all around the house, turning on every indoor and outdoor light. I looked through the windows with a frightened caution. Could this thing break a window? I knew that invertebrates tended to be disproportionately strong for their size. It was only when I went to the front door that I finally saw it. Hanging in the air in front of my porch light, The silhouette of it was a nightmare broken up by the cut glass of the decorative window in my front door. Rushing to a nearby curtained window to see better, I saw it climb precisely along a colossal thread, disappearing up over the porch eaves. Skin crawling with fear, I dialed 911. When the operator answered, I said that I thought someone was trying to break into my house and that I'd seen them on my porch. They said a police officer would be there in about 10 minutes and to lock myself in my bedroom. I didn't go to the bedroom. There were better lights down here, and the spider had gone up the last I'd seen. Holding the curtain back from the window, I stared at the eaves intensely for any movement. By the time I saw it, 4 of the shining, black legs were already curling down from the roof, deftly holding the wooden boards. Slowly, carefully, the head appeared in the light. I couldn't see the outline of the spider in the darkness. The bright porch light made shining reflections off of the finger-sized fangs and 8 perfectly spherical eyes. With a mechanical precision, the legs began to pull at the web, the weight of the spider causing even the strong silk to sag noticeably. The fangs began to work up and down independently as the legs one by one pulled in toward the mouth, gathering the silk there. It was eating the web. Efficiently, methodically, it was eating all of the strands crisscrossing my porch, which it had hung from a minute before. By the time the police got here, there would be nothing left, and I would look like a lunatic. It was still next to the roof. I knew it was fast, but it had limits. Unbolting the door, I cracked it open. I needed a piece of the silk, or no one would believe me, and I would be left to face this thing alone. The spider froze, staring straight at me. Once I watched a documentary on spiders, as difficult as it was for me. Some of them showed surprising intelligence, especially considering how small they were. Looking into the shining black voids that were its eyes, I couldn't help but feel an intelligence there. It had tried to open my window from the sill in the correct direction. It had cast a web where it saw me enter and leave the house. And now it was destroying the evidence of its existence. I knew that it was. With the bat in one hand and the broom in the other, I took a swipe at the remaining web with the broom, hoping that some of it would stick, that I could pull the broom back into the house, and have proof that I wasn't imagining everything. When the broom hit the web, it stuck, and I yanked as hard as I could. The broom moved about a foot, as if it was on a piece of elastic, then began to pull back into place. The spider rushed at me, a flurry of legs descending from the beams of the ceiling. I tried to close the door, but the broom handle was stuck there. I tried to kick it out, but the spider was moving so fast I was forced to grab the door handle with both hands and pull. The door pulled back against my grip. This spider was unimaginably strong, and it was taking all of my strength to keep the door from opening. Black legs curled around the open edge of the door on both sides of my hand. Through the widening crack, I saw the face and the fangs, dangerously close to my hand. But I could not let go of the handle, I knew that. I used to play tug of war as a kid. This was nothing like that. If you've ever played tug of war with a large dog, you might know the fierce pull they can exert with a jerk using their whole body, which can dislodge your grip. This was something like that, but unimaginably faster. The door jarred open 2 to 3 inches in an instant, and before I could react, I had a photographic image of the fangs extending, their fine points burying into the skin of the back of my hand, the hateful eyes staring at me with an empty darkness before disappearing back through the door, along with the legs. With the door opening just a little more, the broom handle had fallen free, and I pulled with all my strength, slamming the heavy wood closed, bolting and locking it instantly. Blood dripped from 2 circular wounds in my hand, near my pinky. They were separated by more than an inch, and looked like they might have nearly gone completely through the soft tissue in between the bones of my pinky and ring finger. Immediately, I began to feel lightheaded. I hoped that it was from the exertion, but when my hand began to go numb, I knew it wasn't only that. Soon, my whole right hand was paralyzed, completely useless. I felt horribly nauseous as the numb, tingling feeling worked its way up my arm, rendering it immobile. I collapsed onto the couch, breathing hard. Around the white boards of the eaves, those legs once again crept, slow and precise. The fangs and eyes appeared from the darkness, and watched me keenly through the window. I looked into them, my heart pounding and a sinking feeling in my stomach. The spider descended its web, carefully and began to eat all of the silk off of the broom, which was hanging in the air. It fell to the boards beneath with a clatter as the last of the web was consumed, and the spider cleaned up all of the remaining web. It climbed a post back up and watched me through the window, half paralyzed on the couch. Part of me knew that creature would have an easier time catching birds or rabbits. Deer even. It had not attacked me for food, I don't think. It had not clawed at my window or set a trap at my door for sustenance. I didn't kill spiders because I needed to. I knew most of them weren't dangerous or aggressive. I killed them because I didn't like them. Looking at the malice in those eyes, nestled between arm-length legs and gently wiggling fangs, I knew the spider attacked me out of hatred. As the sirens approached and blue and red lights flashed from down the block, it withdrew from sight back into the night, thwarted. Fighting against the venom, my mind raced. I couldn't deny a harsh realization, which made me feel both terror and shame. That spider had more reason to kill me than I ever had to kill a spider. The officer knocked on my door, and I managed to open it. After going to the hospital, I felt ill for a couple of days, but recovered well, except for a loss of feeling in my pinky. I sold the house at a loss, got a transfer at work to another state, and got an apartment. I couldn't bring myself to keep living there or anywhere near. When I find spiders, I move them outside now. I bought a vacuum thing specifically designed for that purpose. I wish that I could say it was out of kindness, but it's out of self-preservation. Story 4. It began on July 2nd of last year. I was traveling for the first time. Unbelievably, I'd never left my hometown until then, so I was excited to say the least. My parents were worried. However, they've lived in our town for their entire lives, never venturing outside of it. But I'm an adult now and have finally moved out. So I decided to celebrate this occasion with my first trip. I picked somewhere just a 30-minute drive from my home. But to me, that was still far, far away. My best friend, Jeremy, and I decided to take a river tour with an exceptional view of the mountains and hills. I only wish this memory wasn't tainted by what happened, because it was beautiful indeed. Upon arrival, we got in our raft and sat in the chairs. Our tour guide was equipped with a paddle, and he guided us along the river. He had clearly been doing this for a long time, made evident by his tanned skin and wrinkles. He guided us effortlessly through the winding river. It was peaceful. So peaceful, I decided I'd take some pictures for memories. A decision I'd soon come to regret. When I attempted to fish my phone out of my jean pockets, well, it slipped with a plop. It landed right into the water before I even had time to react. I yelled out, "My phone!" The tour guide stopped and looked in my direction. "Hey, can you help me? My phone fell in the water." "I'm sorry, but there's not really anything I can do. These waters are not suitable for diving." I was silent. I didn't know what to say. What was I to do? At least I had my friend with me. Otherwise, I may have had trouble getting home. Maybe my parents were right after all. They'd always warned me that our hometown was safe, and we knew that to be the case, but outside was unknown. Dangerous places lurked out there, and they didn't want me to find them. I was being dramatic. Of course, they were wrong. Millions of people travel every year, and most of them are fine. They're just superstitious and old-fashioned. "Dude, I'm sorry," Jeremy said. "Yeah, it's fine," I said. The rest of the boat ride was awkward and uncomfortable. I could no longer enjoy the pleasant view with the thought of losing my phone in the murky river depths at the forefront of my mind. I made sure to call my parents using Jeremy's phone so they wouldn't worry, or at least worry less. After returning home from the unfortunate trip 4 days later, that's when things started becoming out of the ordinary. I immediately talked to my parents about my phone, reverting back to my fearful ways. There was a comfort in this, but when I told them, my mother said something strange in reply. "Oh well, that's weird. We just got some text from you." When? As soon as you arrived. My heart dropped. How was that possible? Had someone scooped my phone up from the river and stolen it? The tour guide, he must have gotten it right after we left. No, that was silly. I sounded just like my parents. What did it say? It was just a picture. That thought gave me chills. I hesitated. Of what? My mother flipped her phone screen around to face me. A murky brown image. It was definitely underwater. I gulped. What the hell? How is that possible? My mother shook her head. I'm not sure. Maybe it glitched and took a picture when you dropped it. But I dropped it 4 days ago. The phone should be dead by now and suffering from water damage. And this picture was taken with the flash on. I don't even have the flash on usually. It was then I heard the doorbell ring. I hesitantly waltzed over to the door. There stood Jeremy. Dude, something weird is going on, he said. Don't tell me you've been getting texts from my phone. Yeah, how'd you know? My mom got one too. I was shivering. What was it? I asked. I don't know. It didn't make much sense. It's all jumbled up and gibberish. It looks almost like a drunk text. Let me see. He handed me his phone. SN Swiveita. I was dumbfounded. It looked like a text that would be sent if someone was just randomly hitting letters on the phone. I don't understand. How is this possible? My phone is at the bottom of a river. Do you think somehow somebody got it? Dude, what about the tour guide? Maybe the reason he didn't want to dive in was so he could go retrieve it later. I mean, come on, that dude has to know how to dive. But that still wouldn't explain the strange texts. Okay, maybe he dove in to retrieve the phone, right? And when he was coming up to the surface, he accidentally took a picture while unlocking the phone. You were taking a picture in the messaging app to send to your mom, right? That's right, I was. Exactly. So he could have opened it and mistakenly taken a picture. Okay, that's possible, I guess. But then what about the weird message to you? Well, I mean, come on. The phone has water damage, that's a fact. So I'm sure it's been hard to use. Probably has a mind of its own. Maybe that text was unintentional too. My mom interjected. I think he's right. She said, pointing at Jeremy. I think we should call the police. So that's what we did. That same day, we reported my phone missing and that we had a possible lead on who stole it. But nothing came out of it. The tour guide was searched and they found nothing. We then asked the police if someone could dive in and retrieve my phone. They told us nearly the same thing the tour guide had, that the water was too dangerous to dive in. They said we need to wait till they could find the proper machinery and tools to do so, but not to get our hopes up. I'm sure they had more pressing matters than a lost phone. The following day, another text went through. This time it was my dad who received it. UJ and Soy, what did these mean? I was beginning to think my phone was being haunted by a CAPTCHA generator. None of this made any sense. I stared and stared at the strange message, contemplating its meaning when something hit me. The strange correlation I had made in my head with the CAPTCHAs gave me a revelation. CAPTCHAs are randomly generated. This led me to the idea of anagrams. I've been obsessed with anagrams and codes as a kid, so I decided to put these to the test, dreading what I may find. I found a website that solved anagrams, but none of the words stuck out to me, so I opted for one that solved for multiple words. I hit enter. I scanned the screen through multiple nonsensical pairs of made-up words when I saw one that stood out like a sore thumb. 7 days. My heart stopped. That was the one. It had to be. It was the only one that made any sense remotely. But what did that mean? 7 days to what? I wasn't sure. I wanted to find out. Already on edge from the first find, I hesitantly entered the second mystery message. This list of possibilities was even shorter. Have you ever experienced being so scared that all the hairs on your neck stand up and tears well in your eyes? That's what I faced when I discovered the only phrase that made sense out of this collection. Join us. I jolted backward from my computer. This was becoming too much. I tried to calm myself down and convince myself it was just a coincidence. I decided I didn't need to be alone at a time like this, so I powered off my laptop and headed for the living room. I longed for the comfort my parents provided me in unknown situations. When I walked out my door, I saw something odd. My mother was standing in the corner, her phone pressed hard to her ear as if she was desperate to hear. I could see she breathed heavily as she muttered something to whoever was on the other end. "Oh, Mom." She didn't react. "Mom, who are you talking to?" I said as I drew closer. Her shoulders widened and her posture fixed. "Oh, it's nothing, honey. Just something for the PDA. Why are you standing in the corner?" "Oh, well, the service is best right here. Don't you think?" she said with a grin. Unblinking, without turning my back towards her, I crept backwards into the kitchen. I jolted as someone grabbed me from behind. I then watched my mother run through the house and out of the front door. "It's okay. Michael," my father said from behind me. His grip tightened on me. I was unable to free myself. He pushed me toward the open door. It was broad daylight. Surely someone would see this. Someone would stop them. My father moved with a quick pace, like he was in a hurry. I tried to yell, but he clamped his hand upon my mouth. My dad was a strong man, but this felt different. It was like his primal instincts were kicking in. I scanned for any neighbors out, hoping somebody would be outside, tending to their lawn, and see me. But it was to no avail. My mother swung open the back door of the family car and pushed me inside. Then my father slammed the door shut behind me before hopping into the driver's seat. Frantically, I tried to open the door, but my father locked it before I had a chance. He peeled out of the driveway at an unreasonable speed, knocking down several trash cans, taking off down the road. "Please, what's going on? Why are you doing this?" My parents said nothing. They just stared straight ahead and grinned. Deep down, I knew where they were headed. I took this very route not too long ago. Only at the speed they were going, they'd get there much quicker than I. My father raced through the pavement, running through red lights and stop signs. I hoped and prayed a cop would try to pull us over, but none did. It was as if they'd all taken the day off. We drew nearer. I dreaded it. I feared what awaited me, what had been calling out to me from the depths. I did not care to face it. There it was now, just within view, was that dreadful river where it all began. I darted my eyes around, searching for an exit. The river drew nearer. In my parents' possessed state of hurry, they didn't tie me up. Maybe they thought they didn't need to, but I took advantage of that. With a huge bump, the vehicle rolled into the grassy bank on the river. I had to do something. Using the bump as momentum, I lunged into the front seat and grabbed the steering wheel. I veered it to the right toward a set of trees. My father's strength was caught off guard by my quick maneuver. He tried to set the vehicle back on its intended course, but it was too late. We came crashing into the trees. Right as we did, I noticed something. In the water was another car, sinking. I recognized those bumper stickers. Jeremy. A large gash formed on my head from the collision. My head spun as I reached for the car's locking mechanism. I pushed the driver's side door open and jumped over my father. He sat unconscious in the driver's seat. My mother grabbed at my feet, yanking at me, trying to pull me back. I trudged forward, both of my shoes flying off. I rolled out the car onto the grassy floor. Without looking back, I ran in the opposite direction. I expected my parents to be chasing me. Because of this, I was extremely hesitant to turn around. When I finally did, I was surprised and horrified to see that they weren't chasing me. They were sinking into the river. I walked onwards back home for several hours as night fell. Finally reaching my home, where the front door still remained wide open, I slammed it shut behind me. I looked at the clock in the kitchen, noticing it was now after midnight. A loud knock at the door drew my attention, and then a sudden realization came upon me. It was now 7 days after I dropped my phone into the river. That's it for today's creepy Reddit tales. Before we go, I just want to say a quick thanks to all of you for watching, liking, and sticking around. You guys keep this channel going, and I'll be back soon with more stories that'll make your skin crawl. Drop a comment if you've got your own spooky tale to share, and I'll see you in the next one.